Welcome back everybody to my channel. Hi, I'm the Blade, your personal mining guru, and today I decide finally to talk about Drake Golem, the new starter mining ship which we just get in the game, and actually explain you if that ship can really compete with Prospector, and also show you and teach you all kinds of different workarounds and bug fixes and all kinds of things that can help you to use this ship properly and actually, mining efficiently. So stick around because you want to hear all this stuff. So let's begin. First, most important thing is to know is that Drake Golem doesn't have interior. And with this, we have three big major problems. First problem is that you cannot badlock. So why is that important actually? Usually when we mine, we always just delivering, our ore directly into, stations which have refineries. And then normally we land, we store the ship and we empty the ship in the refinery. So basically you don't need bad logging for that. But much more important thing, what you need bad logging is when you have bad server. So you don't have to go back to your station to bad log, right? So that means server is not responding, you have lags on server, you cannot ping right, for scanning. So in that case, usually, players are changing servers. And because of lacking of interior and bad, normally in that interior in mining ship, we cannot do that. So that's that first thing, which is, bad, but it's not so terrible, right? So we can still go to station and, just bad log in the station. So basically this is just wasting much more time because we cannot bad log. Second thing is not be able to drink in the ship. So that is like kind of important, right? So to fix this basically, just remember always before you go out from hangar and before you enter the Drake Golem mining ship, to just drink and fill yourself up full. But if you really need to drink where you're gonna mine, right? So when you're gonna be in front of rock and you're really on the low health, if you wanna set for drinking and food, it's a way to do that. And what you need to do, you need to go out from the ship. You prepare the bottle like Cruz looks in your hand already. You press inventory and then you quickly drag your helmet to inventory, turn off inventory and drink the whole bottle, right? And after you're done, you press inventory back and just double click on your helmet to put it back on. So in that time, yes, you're gonna be choking, right? But it's not gonna give you like tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 injury. You're just gonna be, lowering your health down more and more, but it's not gonna go fully down, right? So this is how you can do it. And then after that, with the med gun, you just refill your health full. And then, you basically drink or eat like that. So it's pretty simple. And normally this is how you can solve that. And now the third last thing is something which was broken like last 3-4 big patches now in the row. And this is problem with dropping mining modules on the surface of the moon or the planet. Problem with mining modules was that you could only drop them inside your ship from your backpack, and then with small tractor beam or with big, max multi-tool, you then drag them out of the ship and then carrying them towards your mining head in your mining ship, and then you can manually exchange them, when you open ports with holding right Alt and pressing K. And normally now on a Drake Golem mining ship, because of lack of interior, we cannot do that. So this is for that ship broken, but in this last few hot fixes that we have in this last patch, they actually somehow fixed this, at least partially, so it is possible to drop mining modules on the surface outside. But I need to explain you and show you how this works. Drake Golem mining ship has on his right side small external inventory where you can put your mining modules, your mining gadgets, even maybe some like med gun, tractor beam, all kinds of things. which none of the other mining ships like Prospector or Mole has from outside. And the thing is that we supposed to be able to drop directly from that external inventory, like for example mining modules, on the floor of that surface of a moon or a planet where you're mining. But that doesn't work. So something is wrong when you need to drop something like that very close to the ship or directly from the ship. So what you need to do, you need to transfer these mining modules to your backpack if you don't have any, or you don't have to transfer anything if you're carrying them in your backpack. And then you need to step a little bit away from the ship, and then when you press inventory, you just drag with mouse your like mining module towards down that small hand, and this is how mining module is gonna be dropped outside. So what is happening with that also is that if you need to drop second mining module, you need to do like a step to the side. So turning off inventory, make step to the side or backwards, turning back on inventory, and then drag them again another mining module towards that hand to be dropped out. Because for some reason, and this was also a problem way before, that you cannot drop one module on top of each other if you're dropping them on the surface somewhere. So it doesn't allow you to drop second one. So you need to move yourself a little bit to the side, right? And then open again inventory, and then you drag it the same way, and then you can drop another one. And if it's in question, like for example Mole, where you need 3 mining modules, like 3 new ones, then you need to do 3 times that, right? Or even more if you're equipping more lasers, right? But for Drake Golem, it's 2 on his mining head, so 2 is enough. For now, at least that works. But normally, you know, this is Star Citizen, and this can be broken very easily again and not working. So it's one more thing what you can do. I was doing testing with something because I saw that that could potentially work, but it's not 100% bulletproof. So let's explain you what you can do. So when you are in your hangar in front of Drake Golem mining ship, just open the front door, so don't sit inside the ship. And then on your right side, where it's your armrest on the seat, right? You can put 2-3 mining modules, like for example, let's say surges, which you're gonna probably need, on that armrest. And then you enter the ship. So when you're entering the ship, the entire seat is coming out first. And when that happens, these all 3 modules gonna drop on the floor where your actual seat is going to be. So that means that this mining module is gonna be next to that mining seat on the left side. And when you land somewhere down with these mining modules be on that floor inside the ship, you can actually with small tractor beam push them through the wall of Drake Golem mining ship, and this is how you can get them out. But why I'm saying why is that not so bulletproof is that sometimes they can actually, some of them, clip on its own out, you know, through that wall. But they're, you know, very cheap, so just put 3 of them there. If 1 of 2 stays, you know, you actually have them and you can actually put them out. And this is how potentially you can, you know, help yourself if this, you know, dropping mining modules on the surface of moon or some planet is gonna be broken again. So that's your only last resort that you can do on this ship. One more thing, how this is like even more easier to pull out, you know, under the seat, these modules. You can put actually on the both sides where you have these armrests, like 2-3 modules. So when you're going out, they're all gonna fall, you know, under the seat when the seat is gonna be up again. And then, so if you're mining with someone who has his own ship, you can both land, and then when you're gonna do this animation of going out, you know, from seat, he can just quickly grab them with tractor beam and just pull them out. So this is how you can help each other, right? If you have somebody to work with you in tandem with another ship. Because I was only be able to, you know, pull through the wall out only these mining modules which were on the floor under the seat on the left side. So it was not going on the right. I don't know why, but this is how it was working for me. One more very important thing what is concerned messing with mining modules is that if you wanna like replace them on this mining head. Unfortunately, these mining heads are not staying in front where you can easily, attach them. So you need to remove one ore pod, front one, away from ship, and this is how you can, see the mining head and attach two mining modules which you need on that mining head. So what people are doing mistake is that they're removing both ore pods away towards the back of the ship. But it's very easily to actually remove just front one, but you need to put your ship to have VTOL on. So the engine's gonna turn towards down, and then they're gonna be more narrow. So you can very easily pull this ore pod to the side. Because if you don't do that, then usually you need to, pull both of them, back one and the front one, together, pulling them away, and then you can, reach the mining head in the middle of the ship. What is concerning detaching modules, the module on the right side is a little bit difficult to detach, but it's doable. So you need to just little bit put effort and you're gonna be able to move it away. And what is concerning attaching new modules, you just need to, push the modules up to be above the mining head. Then, you holding R and turning with your mouse and scrolling module to turn it correctly. And then you slowly, scrolling backwards your mouse to put it on the spot, and click it to release when it's gonna be green light. So it's actually not such a, big mess to do it, but it will be much better that this mining head can, with push of the button, go forward, and then we can do everything from front, right? But they didn't do it like that. So this is what is concerned these mining modules. Next thing what I'm gonna show is not actually connected to mining, but it's connected to storage of that ship, and it's again external storage, and majority of people don't know that that even exists. So in the front nose, on left and right side, you have weapon racks, right? Where you can put big weapon, you can put smaller weapons, you can put tractor beams, med guns. So basically on the left side, it's a storage for big weapon or big max multi-tool. And on the right side, you can put handgun, you can put a small multi-tool or medical gun in this storage. So this is two external storages, which is a little bit higher up. So people actually don't look at them, when they're walking outside. So they don't even know that they're existing there. So this is really like a neat thing, where you can store your additional weapons or multi-tools. Now the time has come to actually explain you and to show you the differences between this bespoke Pitman mining head on the DRAKE Golem mining ship in comparison to, Helix size 1, which we are using constantly on Prospector. So first thing what we can see that its output power is basically 100% the same. So this is a great thing for DRAKE Golem to have that output power. And we can see that slots for gadgets, so this is basically mining modules, are 2 on each laser, so this is also a great thing. And power consumption is 1, so this is basically, starter ships, so usually it's gonna be always probably the same. The next thing, what we can see, this is also something which is much better on the Drake ship, and this is full damage range. So this is that perfect optimal range on which you need to be to get maximum power output and maximum efficiency from your laser. For Helix 1, which we usually have on Prospector, this is 15 meters, and you can be also closer, like 14, 13, right? But don't go too close, right? Just don't be on 16 meters, because if you're already on 16, you're gonna be losing power. So that means also for Drake that you can be further away, which is much better, so you not get so much damage when the rocks are breaking. But his normally distance is 40 meters from the rock, so that means that you can be 40, 39, 38 and closer. But again, it will be perfectly to be like, like 38, 39, 40, but don't go 41. So if you go 41, 42, you're already, dropping your maximum efficiency power down, right? So this is very important to remember, because still today, lots of people who even mine longer don't know that. And especially normally if you have somebody who's just starting to mine, they don't know this information, right? So this is very good information to learn and to remember forever, because you always need to think about on your distance from which you are need to be from the rock. So next thing is 0 damage range. Both lasers have that the same. So that means on 45 meters, your laser is like cut off like with scissors, right? So you're not touching the rock anymore if you're entering 46 meters. So this is meters from the rock, right? So if you're 45, then your laser is start to touching the rock. If you're going closer and closer, normally you're gonna increase the power till your perfect full damage range, which is again, 15 meters from or less for Helix, or 40 meters or less for Pitman. Next thing is throttle lamp speed. So this is probably something like how much you're scrolling your mouse, how much input you're giving. But this is almost the same, so this is not even worth to mention, right? So the difference is very small. So basically, probably on Pitman, it's going tiny bit slower when you're scrolling, right? So which is a good thing, it's not a bad thing, but it's not so much important, right? Because the differences are too small. And now we are going to the most important stats, and this is resistance, instability, and optimal green window size. Unfortunately, Pitman has plus 25% increase in resistance, and this is bad. And as you see, the Helix size 1 has minus 30%, which is extremely good. So the difference between is not this 25 or 30, it's actually 55% in increase of resistance on the rock when you're mining it with Pitman laser. And that makes a pretty big difference. So basically this laser is because of that much more weaker when you need to start to rise the bar, the charge bar, when you're hitting the rock. Because in the most biggest rocks, this laser is gonna fail, basically, right? You're not gonna be able to raise the bar. So that's one bad thing, right? So next thing is instability. So you can see on the Helix 1, it's 0, which is good, right? Because it doesn't have increase, but in Pitman it's plus 35% increase. And this is terrible, because if you look my last video, which I did, I was actually explaining how instability plays the biggest role in how much ore you're gonna get out. So if you have higher instability, even if you break everything by the book, everything in the green zone with no overheating, it's gonna still remove a lot of ore away. So you're actually getting less and less ore the more and more unstable the rock is. So this is very important stat. So unfortunately, it's so high, plus 35% on Pitman, and this is very bad thing. And now the last actual thing which is important also is optimal charge window size. So this is that green, a window in which you need to hold your bar to break the rock. And the difference is that Helix has minus 40% reduction in window size. So no matter what your materials are showing you on the rock, Helix 1 is gonna have minus 40% even less. But if you put Pitman has plus 40% increase in this green zone. So this is actually 80% difference, which is extremely good thing for Pitman. So Pitman lacks in these two things, resistance and instability, but his green zone is huge in comparison to Helix size 1 for Prospector. So this is where basically Pitman wins it, right? So it's pretty safe laser, if you want to say it, because of that. So this was these three most important, stats for these lasers. And now the next one, what we have, this is optimal charge rate. So this is how fast the green zone is going to the left to break the rock, right? So on Pitman, this is much slower, so it's minus 40%, right? It's not such a big deal, but it's gonna just take you longer to break something, and it's gonna take longer for you to play in that green zone if you have like pretty, small green zone. And then next one is inert materials. So, you know, Helix is having plus 30% reduction in inert materials, and Pitman has a little bit more, so it's plus 40, right? So this is great on both lasers, right? So, but Pitman is a little bit better, right? And the health is the same, you know, and the price, right? It's no price for Pitman because Pitman is bespoke laser, so you cannot take it off or not even exchange it. So this is permanently on that ship. So this is all what is concerned stats. Before I'm gonna show you breaking one great Quantanium rock, so you can see what this ship can actually do with huge rocks, we need to still mention one more thing. And this is that DRAKE Golem has very small capacity, you know, for fuel, like fuel tanks for Quant Drive. And unfortunately, in Pyro, you have very big distances to cross, you know, to get to places where you should mine and where you're supposed to go to mine. So best placed for mining in Pyro would be going from Obituary or Checkmate Station towards Pyro 5 moons, and specifically to moons Adir and Ignis. And if you're going there from Obituary or Checkmate, you cannot make trip to there and back to the stations. So what you're supposed to do, you need to go to Gaslight Station to refuel first, right? And then you go to these moons. And then when you know, mine, especially if you mine Quantanium, then you cannot have, you know, enough time to mess around, you know, to go to some station, then to land, to do this, to that. You're supposed to just go to station where you need to go to refinery, right? That's the right thing to do. But also, like, we have some bugs now where if you land on just pad, or if you just land in a hangar and refuel and go out, it's not updating your refueling. So you're basically refueling, but it says that you still didn't refuel. So what you need to do, you need to land, refuel first, then store your ship in the hangar and spawn it again. And then your, you know, like, fuel is updated, you know, on your HUD. You're gonna see it, it's full. Otherwise, you're gonna go almost empty there, right? So you need to take care of that. This is gonna be maybe fixed in the next patches, but for now, it's the most time is bugged, right? So this is one more step in this whole procedure, which is just, you know, losing your time, and you just need to do it. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to deliver, you know, your ore to refineries. So this is how this worked, right? If you don't want to deal with that, best would be just to go to Ruin Station and then go back and forth from Ruin to Terminus. That's, you know, a very short trip. And there you're gonna have, you know, very small rocks. So it's gonna be very good for mining for Golem, right? But on Terminus also flying is not the fastest. So if you really want to go to the top spots for mining, you need to go to moons of Pyro 5, and specifically moons Adir and Ignis, and there in nav mode you can fly the fastest, right? So the searching and scanning for rocks is the fastest. This is how this works. But if you want to go to, for example, Stanton, you're gonna have much easier time, because there you have like stations which are much closer to actual moons where you need to mine. For example, like, let's say Cruel 1 station, and then you go to mine to Selin, like, you know, Moon of Crusader. Or if you wanna go to mine to Lyria or Walla next to Arco, also Arkel 1 and Arkel 2 stations are close to that moons. Same goes for Hurston, right? You have Hurel 1, Hurel 2 station, and then you go to moons of Hurston, you know, like Magda, Ita, right? Also like Microtech, right? So this is stations or which are much closer, right, than when you're mining in Pyro, right? But if you want to go for like mining for Stilleron or Receipt, you know, which is only connected with tin material, you can only find that in Pyro. So this is the procedures that you need to do, unfortunately. So this is all about that. One more thing what we need to mention, what is also bugged in this patch, it's a V-scanner in DRAKE Golem, where your HUD has visual bug. So how scanning works? So when we search for actual clusters or rocks, we don't put our mining arm out with M, but we just press V, we scroll full backwards on the mouse wheel, and then we ping with tab, or if you have some other key which you set up for yourself, right? And then we're gonna see all these, you know, like unknown markers all around us. And we can already see one here, right? But you can see that this bar on the right side down corner, I cannot scroll up and down, right? But I'm actually scrolling with mouse. So what that means, if you wanna know if that's cluster or single rock, you need to scroll full forward, right? And then you ping again, and now you can see it shows the cluster. So if you wanna again see unknown markers further from us, you need to again scroll backwards and ping again. But unfortunately, this bar in Drake Golem is not showing these differences, right? Like for example in Prospector. So this is that visual bug that we have. And I hope they're gonna fix this in next patch, because this is very annoying bug, you know, on the brand new ship, which we just got for mining. So it's just ridiculous to have that. But this is how you scan, and now, you know, you just press when you get closer to these rocks, they need to glow blue like this. And then after the glowing blue, then you press M, and then you scan each individual rock separately to see what's inside them, you know, what's the percentages, what's the, you know, mass, instability, resistance, all this important information. So this is how this works. And now it's finally time to show you what this Drake Golem new mining ship is capable of to break with his, you know, mining head, which you cannot exchange. We are on a deer moon, and I found here like very good example of a rock which can, you know, like push limits of this ship. And this is rock which has, you know, 30 tons in size with minimum 30% of Quantanium. And this is, you know, the thing that you should go for, same as rocks which contain like receipt or steeleron. And you can see that we have equipped 2 surge modules, and look how big green zone is on that rock, even without using, you know, any type of focus modules. So this is that benefit of this laser, which is like very, you know, amateur user friendly, if you want to say it like that, where your window for fixing error that you're gonna do, it's very big, right? So it's pretty safe laser for people who just started to mine. And to be able to break this type of rock, you really need to use surges, and you need to use severe gadget on the rock. I didn't try if that could potentially go with the Bormax, which because of this size of rock would be much better, because instability is huge, right? And normally this laser is adding more instability, which is a terrible thing. And as you all know, in my previous video I was talking about how you need to actually reduce instability to lose less ore from your rocks, even if you break everything properly by the book. So now I'm actually putting the severe gadget on the rock, and this is gonna even more increase the green zone, and it's gonna reduce resistance by 50%, right? So this is the device which basically helps you to actually break these huge rocks, which potentially could go maybe with some gadgets which doesn't reduce resistance, right? But you're gonna be on like basically border. So if that was like maybe 25 tons rock, I would probably put, you know, Bormax on. But I didn't want to risk these 2 mining modules which I have already on the mining head, so I could actually break this rock and show all that to all you guys. And now we're gonna start to, you know, breaking this rock, and you see already that, you know, green zone is pretty big, and it's gonna be even bigger now when we turn on laser, right? So this is extremely you know, safe laser for doing this stuff, but instability is huge, right? And resistance is also, you know, the problem which occurs, that sometimes you're not gonna be able to break rocks which are going like maybe 35 tons, 38 tons. Like you need to, you know, play with that and test to see actually what could go. But this one was going, and you see I'm on like maybe 80% power with using 2 surges. So we could potentially break even bigger rock than this, right? Not much bigger, but it could be a little bit bigger. And this is gonna be, you know, very clean break, because I'm, you know, holding it in the full low green zone, and it's not, you know, such a big deal to break this, right? Even in such a big instability, if you know what you're doing and if you can be very precise. So when this breaks now we need to scan all the pieces first. So you're not going out of the ship, you're not gonna setting up anything yet. First you need to see what's the percentages, and all these secondary pieces which needs to be breaked again, and if they're going over like 50 or even like 40% of Quantanium over that, you need to put again mining gadgets on them. And yes, you can do that again, right? Because you need to break them again. Because you can see that all these instabilities are in red, and they are much higher than, for example, on some material like maybe backselite or something like that, which is not going to have such a big instabilities. But Quantanium has one of the biggest ones, right? Same as Stealeron, same as Receipt, also Taronet is in that group. So to have efficient mining, especially now with DRAKE Golem, because it has big instability, you need to first scan all the pieces, you need to memorize where they are, and you need to put again, you know, mining gadgets on them, especially Bormax, or you can also put Wave Shift if you have. But Wave Shift I would recommend on the pieces where maybe you cannot break them, you know, again. So they are so huge secondary pieces and so pure that resistance on them is too high for you to break with your, you know, mining laser. So Wave Shift is not increasing resistance, and Bormax is increasing for 10%. So that's that main difference. So if the piece is too hard, put Wave Shift. If it's not, always put Bormax, right? And so this is what we're going to do now. Now a little bit speed up the video, so you guys gonna see, you know, what I'm doing, but it doesn't have to be so slow. And here you see I'm collecting the Sabir gadget, so that gadget survived the break. And now I'm placing Bormax, right? So pieces which are still in the ground, you're not gonna have any problems to put gadgets on. But pieces which are above the ground, they know to like vibrate and move, so it's not so easy to, you know, push these lines to activate the gadget. And you see here, the gadget dropped down because this is that same rock which I already, you know, activate the gadget on. And if you wanna see the outlines, just point your small multi-tool towards them. You're gonna see where the rock, you know, begin and end, you know, like his edges, where it's the edges of the rock. And now I'm, you know, putting Bormax on the second one here. So this rock is also in the ground, so it's no problem at all to put on that one. But usually majority of rock is gonna be above the ground. And you see here how he vibrates. So this is where you can have, you know, very, very big problems to push the lines. And this is gonna be an annoying thing for lots of people. But unfortunately, this is what we have now in the game, and we need to deal with that if you wanna do, you know, like this real professional mining, if you wanna say it like that. And, you know, it's causing a problem. So it doesn't vibrate so much because this is speed up footage now, but it still vibrates that it's very hard, you know, to push the lines. So I'm still playing with that thing, right? It takes time, you know, and it's really like hard accessible piece because it's, you know, above water pieces. But we managed to, you know, push all the lines on the exact numbers, so over 90%. And now I can activate the actual, you know, gadget. So now I'm still searching for one because it was one more where I need to put, and I think I'm gonna put Wave Shift on that one. So this is this one, the closest to the ship. And I didn't have any more Bormaxes, so I put the Wave Shift, right? And I think this was the biggest piece. So pieces who have biggest resistance, right? It's always better to put Wave Shift than Bormax. But, you know, instability, it's not reduced then by so much like on Bormax, right? But it's still reduced by half. So it's still, you know, it's better than nothing. So here we're gonna also push it to 90, activate, and we can go to the ship. Now we're checking these all pieces, and you see there are like 5 tones with 50% Quantanium, around that numbers, like 2-3 of them. And I'm checking like which has the biggest percentage Quantanium and the biggest mass. So I'm gonna break them first because I still have these old surges which I didn't spend till the end. Because this type of pieces, you see, I'm pushing 100% and he's barely, you know, the charge bar, it start to filling without using the surge, right? And in these cases, even much better option would be like Stampede module, right? Because Stampede is giving also lots of power, but it's reducing instability even more. But you can see instability is in the green now, so it's not necessary to actually use the Stampedes. But surges, you need to have additional ones, right? This is the only reason why I was actually able to break this, right? So I was still having some pushes on surge modules, and now I can actually hold this charge bar up and I'm gonna be able to break. So this rock has Bormax gadget, and that's why instability is so low, right? So now we're gonna see second one. Let's see what else we have. So this one is even 6 tones and half, again 6 tones and half with almost 50%. So all these rocks gives a lot of Quantanium for this small ship, right? But with 100% power on this laser without using any module, this will not go. Maybe you're gonna, you know, start like noticing a little bit bar rising, but eventually maybe you could break it. But you need to find this, like, you know, spot which is more unstable, which the more sparks are going where the laser is hitting the rock. But with using surges, this normally goes much more easier. And you see I already hit a little bit here, but we actually didn't lost anything on that one. And now this one has 5 tones with 50%. Second has 5 tones with 50%. And you're gonna see now that I'm gonna push the bar, but this surge I have like maybe 2 uses or 3. And unfortunately I could not break that, right? You see it fell off. And no matter what I do, even I was searching this sparking point where it's more unstable, and it's like holding a little bit, you know, but it's just not enough power, right? Because resistance is too huge. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to land and I'm gonna take all these modules which survived, right, on the surface, because this is always best thing to do, because you can still use them, right? So if they're not dead, if they didn't be completely damaged or exploded, or if rock didn't fall on them, you can just take them and use them again, so you don't have to pay for new ones. And you can see one is here, and this is sparking, so we're not gonna touch and use that one. But one we have here, it's still on the rock, right? And let's see if we have one more. As you see, this one is survived, so this is Bormax, right? And we still didn't break that one with wave shift, so this is that big one on the right. But now I'm gonna show you something funny, which is also sad, but it is funny. We are still in front of our Quantanium rock, and it's already night. I was wanted to show you how if somebody is next to you who is mining with you in some other ship, if you have these problems that dropping modules on the floor is not going to work, you can use their ship to stand on their elevator if they have a mall, and just drop modules there and just carrying them to your ship to equip it on your laser, right? And I was having one guy here, and he's gonna go towards me, and you're gonna see what is gonna happen next. So this is what happened, right? But fortunately I didn't die, and I was not still collect that rock, so it's all still there. But now I need to actually kill myself. I'm gonna have my dead marker here so I can know, where to go again. And then I'm gonna have equipped, again, these brand new surge modules on my ship, so I can finish this all breaking. And you can clearly see now that gadgets are still on, right? If you don't leave the server, they're gonna stay on these rocks, right? So here we have one gadget, right? And then we have the wave shift on the other one. And you can see now with using search, it goes again, right? So these all rocks, which are like 5-6 tons, and you have 50% Quantanium, you basically need to use surges, because otherwise it's not gonna reduce enough resistance, because surges are reducing resistance, right? You can see it here, it says resistance minus 16%, right? So this is a great thing. Instability grows, right? But it's not gonna grow too much, right? So this is something that it's almost like on the border, right? And we break this one, and now we have this one. So this is where the wave shift is on, right? So we didn't have for that one in that time another pawn mark, so we just put wave shift. And you see instability is still a little bit red, but if we just can reduce it there's tiny bit less, it will be much better. So if in this case I was having maybe like stampede, I would reduce it even more. Here was one more piece with 2%, but it's not point to bother with that, so we're not gonna break it. And now it's time for collecting. Normally now you're supposed to, collect the most highest valuable pieces. So this is Quantanium pieces with the highest percentage. That's why you need to, scan them first, because you have very small capacity with this, DRAKE Golem ship or the Misc Prospector. This is not the mole. And you need to be picky, right? So this takes time again. Everything takes time when you're doing this. And the reason why we are using all these, mining gadgets on these secondary pieces to reduce instability is to get more Quantanium from the rocks, because if you don't do that, you're losing much more quant. So from this rock, maybe we could just take like 15 ACU if I didn't put all these mining gadgets on the rock, which is still not bad, because 15 ACU would be like 300k, right? Maybe 350 if you're selling for the highest price. But now we're gonna collect like around 25 ACU, so 10 ACU more, right, per load. It's over 200k to 240k, so that's a big deal for small ships like this. So that's why you need to make much more effort. You need to, deal with all this, stuff, and it's much more rewarding. And this is what all is about in this game, You put more effort in it, and it's more rewarding, and it's much more fun to play it like this. If you're gonna just keep collecting and keep delivering, back and forth, then you're making this, into a real job. And this is not what is the point of this game, right? Everybody likes to grind, everybody likes to, getting much more money, but you need to enjoy to play the game and, actually make it fun for you. Now we're in a refinery, and you could see that if I was selling that directly, I would get 300k, but now we're gonna make order, so we're gonna refine, and you can see here how much that is going to be. And if you put our golem on, we have like almost 25 ACU of Quantanium. We're gonna put, if you put Dynex, let's just see how much that's going to be. So 21 pure ACU, 36 hours it's gonna take, and we need to pay almost 18k for this refinery job, right? But we're gonna use Ferron, so it's only 12 hours, we're paying more. So it depends. If you don't want to pay so much, if you're just starting, it's better to just put on Dynex, and then it's okay, right? It's gonna be less. And you can see all these my orders here, this is all Quantanium, mostly like 95%, little bit receipt, little bit Stealeron, and this is mostly all mined on Ignis Moon. And you can see that some of them are huge deliveries. So what you see here, it's basically like over probably 30 million in Quantanium. And this is normally mined with MOL. But this last order here, it's 21 ACU. So if we calculate that, this is like around 500k. And if we reduce what we spent, you know, like refinery order 20k, maybe some gadgets, let's take 20k for gadgets, 25 if we destroy 2. So it's pure 450k for one run with 30 ton of Quantanium rock with Drake Golem. So I think that's a very nice run with that ship. But this is still not all, guys, what you need to see. We're gonna show you one more thing, and this is important if you wanna do multi-ship mining, which I can just not recommend for you to do with Drake Golems, and you're gonna see why. So because of this instability problem with these mining heads, now instability grows abnormally high. Because how mechanic works, adding one more ship on the same rock, it's gonna double the instability, and then it's gonna triple it, and so on and so on. So this is just insane numbers what you see here. And if we add also surge modules on, it's gonna grow even more. And this is not all the problems which are happening. So now you see in the middle of the screen down, we put Bormax gadget on, right? Because you always need to do that when you're mining with Golem, because instabilities are just too high and then you're losing ore, right? And now we're gonna try to use surge modules, and unfortunately one of our guys, his game is gonna keep crashing, so we're basically gonna just use 3 ships. And this type of rock can be broken with 3 surges and these 3 Drake Golem mining ships. But like I said, instability is abnormally high. We managed to reduce it, but it's still going almost 1500, right? So this is huge instability. But the rock could be broken, but now we have another problem. And this problem is how the instability is multiplying, right? Also one other thing is multiplying, and this is that speed when you push your charge bar into green, how fast this bar is going from the right side to the left side to break the rock. And unfortunately, because we have these multipliers, right, these lasers have very slow speed of breaking, right, of this charge bar going to the left. And when this all multiplies, it's going even slower and slower. So this takes eternity to break. And because of that, you're always gonna burn out already your mining modules like surges, and you cannot actually break this rock. So this is what you're seeing now here, what is happening. And because of that, in this case, it would be best to use also like at least 1 torpid or 4L mining module to speed up this charge bar to going faster to the left and actually break the rock. Unfortunately, this is how this all works now, and you know, these Drake Golem mining ships are really not designed for some multi-crew mining, right? You can do multi-crew mining, but you know, like it's better that every ship is breaking his own rock, you know, so you're mining all together, but not to put lasers on the same rock. If you really want to do it with maximum 2 ships, right? Maybe equip surges on both mining module slots, but you still need to use Bormax to reduce this instability the maximum that you can, right? Because this is all going over 1000. And with other mining ships, we never go over maybe, let's say like 300, 400. And this rock here was originally, without putting laser on, actually around 300, a little bit more, right? So this is how much this instability grows, unfortunately, with these ships. This video is again a little bit longer, but as you see, this is so much huge amount of information which you need to know, you know, to be safe, to be efficient, you know, and to actually have enjoyment in mining and actually, you know, deliver more ore, earn more money. And this is how it goes, you know, this is how this all works. If you have any other type of questions, you can always, you know, ask in the comments below the video, or you can ask me almost every day where I'm streaming on the Twitch, so you can directly ask me in chat there. And the best would be always to join us in our Java Scrap Mining Corp Discord and, you know, mine with us and ask for help, or, you know, for information, or ask directly for help if you cannot break something what is concerned rocks. We can always, you know, help you if you're in the need of that. This is all for now, guys, and normally if you find all this information useful and informative, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more content. See you next time, guys. Bye bye.